Andromeda is here, and for some folks, it is wreaking havoc on their ad accounts, and for other folks, it's the greatest thing ever. Hi, my name is Charlie. I've spent over $1 billion on ads, and I help anybody running ads on Facebook scale brands, drive leads, and make a lot more money. In this video, I'm gonna break down another video from my buddy Matt, which I thought was really articulated well. And we're gonna separate fact from fiction so you can go from struggle to success, because honestly, that's what this is all about. So that being said, let's get to it.
Facebook made a massive algorithm update in July, and I'll tell you what, it has been wreaking havoc with business owners who advertise on Meta, including Facebook and Instagram. And in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what the change was and how to combat this so you're not left behind. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Okay, so the update was on Meta Andromeda. That is the AI algorithm that Meta uses to place the right ads in front of the right people. Now, this is a post from Engineering at Meta. This happened on December 2nd, 2024, but it didn't fully unleash or give it to all advertisers until July. That's why I saw some wacky things in July. I saw cost per click go through the roof on some accounts. I saw it drop like crazy for others. I saw cost per lead do the same. We had some people change strategies completely from DM ads to book a call funnels and vice versa because the results just were kind of wacky, okay? Now, this engineering one, I'm gonna summarize this. This is kind of more about the AI algorithm and the updates to it. It talks about its partner with NVIDIA and other AI developments. Honestly, I read this and it wasn't that helpful, okay? So I found another one that I think is more user-friendly, so I'll link this down below.
By the way, I wanna agree here that the engineering team very rarely distributes content in a way that is terribly actionable for most advertisers. The biggest points that those docs got to, and I love that he's referencing John Loomer, who's also very good at taking complex things and making it understood. Essentially, what we need to understand from all of that documentation is that the algorithm update didn't actually change much of anything. What it did do was crank up the volume of the decision making. So essentially, all choices are now more hyperbolic. And let's see what John Loom has to say about this, because I value John Loomer's ability to make complex things simple. I also don't necessarily agree with the insights he brings to the table, but let's see what he has to say.
But at a high level, what Andromeda is doing is Facebook realized that their issue was that they had a hard time with ad retrieval. And that essentially means they had so many ads, they had so many advertisers. They had a hard time putting the right ad in front of the right person. So what we used to do is we used to make generic hooks. And the generic hook would be like, hey, if you're a busy mom trying to lose 20 pounds, here's the...
Okay, yes, ad retrieval is really what this is about. And full disclosure, Matt, I have not watched this video. I wanted this to be completely legit and straightforward and not written and scripted and edited and stuff. This is me. I asked on Twitter, you wrote back and said, hey, I'd be really open to it. And I really appreciate that you've been following my channel. That's why I want to get to this. So now, with that all being said, ad retrieval is at the core. Yes, we've done stuff where we made generic. Now, that generic style of content is something that we should have hopefully gotten away from since 2018. Knowing that creative does the targeting, that's not something that we should have had still as a tool in our toolbox. Also, I'm going to make a guess that this is kind of going into what we should do is a lot more pointed efforts. And I've heard a lot of people say this, so I'm going out on a limb, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. And again, unedited, right? That's what this is all about. What I've heard a lot of people say is now the machine has had so many advertisers and so many ads that we've had a retrieval issue. So what we're going to do is make more ads so that each one has less data. Because a smarter machine with less information is now going to be able to deliver a better ad to a better person. And where I'm coming from, that ethos, and again, I don't know where you're going with this. Hopefully we're on the same page. We might disagree. That's also fun. Where I'm coming from with this is that you shouldn't have had generic stuff to begin with. And if the machine is telling you it's been too complicated, so we're trying to solve a problem around the complexity, that is not an excuse to then make things more complicated. It doesn't matter how smart the machine is, that's potential. If you're setting up somebody with a lot of potential, but you give them no ability to use it, the machine is still dumb. And at some point, it's like playing chess with a pigeon. Right? They're going to move the pieces, they're going to knock things over, they're going to laugh about it, and then they're going to go back to the nest and say they won. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. Let's figure out where you're going with this, Matt, because again, you've clearly laid out a good conversation here. 51,000 people, congrats. Let's see where you go with this.
Ad, right? So the generic hooks worked because Facebook had a hard time with retrieval. So those bigger hooks that called out a larger amount of people actually worked better. But now we're seeing.
So the reason those bigger hooks worked was because they were more generic. They were better at appealing to a broader group of people. When you look at a 4PI analysis, they had a lower frequency, lower CPM. They earned more budget. That was a great way of attracting more attention. It's not that they were better or worse than something else. A generic hook is a better tool at attracting lower qualified information at greater scale. It still is. Andromeda's update is neither better nor worse at the ability for that ad to do that job. It's just now cranked up in how much it does that job.
Is Facebook wants more creative diversity. So it's actually those big hooks that appeal to a lot of people aren't getting the cost per click, aren't getting the cost per lead, aren't getting the cost per sale, and aren't scaling like they used to. So let me break.
So creative diversity. Creative diversity is not an excuse to make a ton of ads. Creative diversity is not volume of ads. Creative diversity, by the way, love this little edit you've got going on in here. I love this thing. Please let me know what this is if it's in Canva or something. I'll 100% rip this off and give you credit for it. I enjoy your editing. Well done. Creative diversity is about matching a few different styles of ads. If you have 1,000 UGC testimonials, you have one ad. If you have 1 million product shots talking about features and benefits, you have one ad. Creative diversity is the volume of concepts. And you can absolutely get away with 4 or 5, maybe 6. I'd argue that having more than that is counterproductive to being successful. The way I explain this often, and I did a video called I Spent $1 Billion on Facebook and similar about testing. It's on the channel. You can go check it out sometime. I did it in partnership with my friends at Foreplay. Shout out to Foreplay. We talk about it as the Olympic rings. You have 3 rings on top, 2 on the bottom. Now, the 2 rings on top connect to one, and then the other 2 rings on top connect to the other. So 3 here, 1, 3 here, 1. Those are 5 concepts. That is a tremendous amount of creative diversity. You might have a UGC testimonial. You might have a demonstrative version of the product. We're showing how it works. And then you might have a fun edited video talking about the features and benefits and why people like it, X, Y, and Z. Now you've got a static image, potentially down here, that overcomes the objection of the UGC and the demonstrative. Maybe you talk about features, benefits, pricing, structure, something like that. And then over here, where you've got the features and benefits, video, and, the demonstrative, maybe there you talk about testimonials as a static. Now, those are 5 different concepts. That creative diversity is all you need to attract a very specific kind of user. And the way you scale a business is by getting the kind of user who's likely to spend money with you more than once. There's a very big difference between being a salesperson and having a business. Being a salesperson means you can sell a product at a profit, hopefully. Having a business means you acquire cash flow profitably in a scalable fashion. The more ads you have, the harder it is to get to the second scale, that transaction that occurs after the first one. And I've got a video coming out about second scale, and it's a whole other conversation. But the point here is creative diversity is not thousands of ads. It's not hundreds of ads. It's not dozens of ads. It's different concepts that are complementary to each other. And you can nail that diversity with half a dozen ads. And then you do creative testing to try to improve the quality of those elements in your investment portfolio.
Down this article down here. I think this one was written very well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this article, and then I'm going to share with you guys on my iPad exactly what we're doing from a campaign structure, number of ad sets, number of ads, all of that at the end. So if you're a nerdy media buyer like me, stick around until the end. Okay. So again, this will be linked in the description below. The biggest thing, like I mentioned before, is the problem was retrieval. Okay. Andromeda is the new algorithm, right? And it takes millions of ads, narrows them down to a few thousand candidates, and it does it in a way that Meta claims is faster, smarter, and more personal than ever before. And again, like I mentioned, creative diversity or diversification is your new ad strategy, okay? So creative diversity does not mean just pumping out near duplicates with minor tweaks. It's about creating a range of ads that differ in meaningful ways. So previously, as an
Correct. Now, I want to just double down on this. Near duplicates with minor tweaks, creating a range. What it does not say is produce more. What it says is produce different kinds. More doesn't solve the retrieval problem. More doesn't make things simpler. Because the machine is smarter doesn't mean you should make the work more difficult. And by more difficult, what I mean is having more assets with less data. Don't leverage a smarter machine by making it dumber. Leverage a smarter machine by giving it better choices.
Advertiser, I would have, I'd make a video ad, I'd have one body, and I'd have 3 different hooks. And then boom, there's my 3 ads. Well, Meta is saying, hey, we don't just want that, we want more diversity. So what we're seeing and what I've heard a lot of other...
It's not saying it wants more diversity, but I like where you want the 3 ads. That's a 3-2-2 ad. I love it. Let's see where you go with this.
People in the space seeing as well is that having the ad all the way through being unique and different actually performs better than having just 3 different hooks. The same thing applies to static image ads. If you've got...
That's not exactly what's being said. Although it's true, it's an extrapolation with a precondition. Instead, what I want you to think about here, Matt, and everybody else watching, is that the reason that different video all the way through is different should not be because they're 3 different versions of the same sales pitch. Again, UGC, demonstrative, where you're demonstrating things, or features and benefits. The videos themselves, it's not like, let me give another example. We're using video here. If you want to have a successful movie theater, you don't just have 5 different cuts of some Quentin Tarantino movie. Now, mind you, I'm probably going to watch all of them because I'm a big Quentin fan. But you're going to have a family movie. You're going to have a kids movie. You're going to have a romantic comedy. You're going to have some epic thing from Christopher Nolan and the Quentin. That way you're going to appeal to a lot of people. But you don't need 100 of each. Like, oh, well, we're going to go see the kids movie, right? We're going to see the romantic comedy, right? And when people come to that, if you also are able to curate a vibe and a level of qualitative analysis around the movies that you choose to show in your theater, then people know, oh, I'm just going to go to that theater because they always have good movies. You see the same thing happening in my world in music. Some venues will take anybody that buys the venue. Other venues pay their performers and just curate the talent. CBGBs curated the talent to create a scene. The venue on your street, in your town, that has been turned over 5 times and is constantly just new ownership and some bar with a stage where anybody can come up and do an open mic night is always going to go out of business because they're focused on volume. They're focused on creating a bunch of diversity, but they're handling diversity in the wrong way. Hope that helps.
Got a white background static ad, and you have a black background static ad. That's such a kind of minor near duplicates or minor tweaks. Again, this creative strategy and diversification that...
Love that, by the way, side note. Backgrounds, colors. Love that he's calling that out. One of the things that I just told a consulting client yesterday, think of your concepts as just different Canva templates. They should all look and feel different. They told me, well, here's 100 ads. They're all different. We're talking about the copy on it. No, these are all the same. Build me something that looks completely different. Otherwise, I just realized that they're iterations of each other.
Andromeda is telling us to use, it does not want us just to do that, okay? It wants us to make more Okay. And again, I'll share with you guys how to do that at the end. But creative diversification shows up in a few key areas, right?
Again, it's not more as in volume, it's more as in greater differentiation amongst the volume you already have. And you're probably going to get better results with fewer number of ads with greater variation between them that are all focused on a singular objective. Your target customer is X. Get that customer in a few different ways.
Concepts and angles. So this is like, what is the ad about? What's the pain point? What's the hook angle that's bringing people in? It wants diversity in the formats. So it doesn't just want videos. It wants short videos, long horizontal style videos, static images in carousels, and then personas, speaking to different customer types. I'm going to talk about this in when we get down to here, but this is going to actually, I would ignore this for the time being. If you have different personas, we're going to actually need to break those out into separate ad sets or campaigns. I'll talk about that again.
I'll say this. You only need 1 or 2 personas to massively scale a business. The number one persona that you should be focusing on is who's the customer who comes back and spends money with me more than once. That is the most valuable customer to get. You can make a bunch of sales and focus on first order profitability. You can be a salesperson, or you can run a business. Instead of trying to sell products, you're buying customers. The number one persona you should be concerned with is, what does it look, who is the person that comes back over and over again? What do they have in common? How do I use different angles and formats to attract that person's attention? And how do I have a diversified set of creatives so I can overcome the objections and get their attention in the right place and bring more of them? You don't want to have 1,000 ads that attract 1,000 people to get 1,000 folks to buy once. In a perfect world, you have one type of customer, you can get 1,000 of them, they're all the customers that buy 3 times. You're going to afford a much higher CAC if your customer's buying over and over again. And if you say, well, I can't focus on that, I need to be first order profitable, what you're telling me is you're so focused on desperately getting a sale anywhere that you haven't built a good business. And if you don't have a good business, running ads ain't going to help.
At the end, but I think this kind of actually confused it a little bit. So I'd say the biggest thing here is that it wants...
Please don't make them separate campaigns. You also don't need to be separate ad sets. The personas can absolutely exist within the same thing. Your ad should speak to multiple folks and just have that Olympic ring style. Maybe the persona over here and the persona over here and the thing in the middle attacks both. And then you've got an image that kind of works on either of them, but that's all you need. That is all you need to get to 5 figures a day. Multiple campaigns. Remember, campaigns don't talk to each other and your personas are not discrete. You're not just talking to completely different people. There is going to be overlap. And every bit of that overlap keeps the machine dumb, and you're focusing on attribution to make poor decisions based on retroactive data that is incomplete, and you're keeping the machine dumb to justify an effort of performance efficiency on first order, and that's ultimately going to cripple your growth.
It wants more concepts and it wants more formats so it can find the right ad for the right person, because now it has that capability to do that. Okay, so what this means now is we need to stop chasing that perfect combo.
All right, one last thing that I want to get into here real quick around the personalization. This is one of the most misunderstood things that's going on right now. It's not trying to find the best ad for the right person because every ad makes a sale on the first touch. That doesn't exist. It's trying to find the right journey through multiple touch points of ads. So you have to remember that it's not just one ad. It's all of your ads and all of your organic content, plus everybody else in your niche and everybody else marketing, all collectively bringing somebody to some touch point. A customer journey is way more than one sale. It's way more than one day. It's way more than 1 week. The reason you bought the shoes that you're wearing right now, if you're wearing shoes, or the ones that are over by the door, isn't because of a sales pitch. You've been buying shoes potentially for decades. The point is that it is not about any one ad's ability to do a job. It's about the entire portfolio of ads working together. Now, each campaign is a discrete data set that does not communicate. So each campaign is essentially competing against each other to get to the same end goal. That's where having multiple campaigns means you have a dumber machine. Only have a separate campaign if you have a separate business objective. That separate business objective better have a different KPI target. I love the idea of cash flow, buying as many customers that are likely to buy a second time. Also, profitability. Maybe you have a GPT campaign to give you a higher day one profitability so you can lose more money on the acquisition of new customers. You're essentially using this to set up for lack of a better word, socialism that allows you to afford long flow cash flow cycles. And then maybe you have a volume of transaction device to bring down the blended CPA with a catalog ad. That's 3 campaigns that'll easily get you to 5 figures. Anything else that gets in the way of that is a liability to growth.
Of the ad copy and creative, and feeding just one video ad and having one hook and one headline. That day and age is over. Okay, I'm telling you right now, if you don't want to use the algorithm and you just want to try to be smarter than the algorithm, you are not going to win. Meta makes billions of dollars. I believe billions, probably tens of billions. I don't know, but they make a lot of money. Okay, and their algorithm has so much data points on you and on all of its users. Do you really think that you're going to beat it? Do you really want to sit behind the dashboard and just put $10 into this ad and put $10 out of this ad and just go back and forth? That sounds exhausting. Do not do that. I'm telling you right now. Instead, what Facebook wants you to do is, instead of trying to chase that combo, it wants you to load it up. It wants you to load the campaign up with multiple different ads, multiple different headlines, multiple different body texts, so it can find the right one. Okay, targeting largely happens in the ad level now.
So, no. This is actually an argument in favor of 322 ads, flex ads, dynamic creative. It's not an argument to just spit out a bunch of things. Yes, I think you're getting to the right place, Matt. Sorry, that was weird, place, Matt. Anyway, the problem here is that the more folders you have, the more ads you have, the more ways that data can be segmented. 100 ads with 100 impressions is a bunch of things to get a data set of 1. A dynamic creative with 12 variations would collect all of that information into a single place. So I love the idea that we're not trying to find the perfect combo of ad creative and copy. Absolutely true. That's why since 2019, we've been preaching dynamic creative, right? 322 ads. That solves this problem. Then it's having the correct collection of dynamic creative of 322 ads in that little system like the Olympic rings that delivers you a consistent result of attracting the highest quality customer that's likely to spend money with you more than once. Anything that gets in the way of that decision being simple to make is a liability to success. Let's go.
Multiple different body texts, so it can find the right one.
Oh, also, don't max out your Facebook ads. It is not Google. Google, you max out the variations because it's somebody looking for you. You're trying to capture existing intent. In Facebook, you're not trying to capture existing intent. You're trying to curate intent. The more variations you have, the dumber each variation is. Remember, more data sets, the more things you have to support, the dumber everything is. Do you want to train 100 salespeople to all be shitty at their job? Or do you want to have 3 absolute fucking killers? Which one do you think is going to help you be more successful tomorrow?
I've been talking about this for a while now. This is just the way that it's going. Almost even now, if you are in the campaign setup and you're in an ad set level and you try to target like a very tight-knit group, it's going to go well beyond that. So it's not very good nowadays to have a very tight audience. Facebook doesn't even let you do it. So again, the ad itself does most of the targeting.
This is since 2018, age, gender, location, broad targeting. Anything outside of that is a severe liability to your success, including excluding existing customers. There's legitimately no reason that you should do that. Because also, everything you're seeing here, they're going to show the ad to the person who wants to see it. They're going to show the ad to the person most likely to have a consistent, high-quality experience. They're going to show the ad to the person that wants to buy. If someone's an existing customer and has no interest in buying again, why would they show that person the ad? And let's just say, for instance, what if you have 1,000 customers and it gives every one of them an impression every single day, and your CPM's like $20? Well, then you wasted $20 unless any of them ever buys a second time, in which case you were still profitable. The order of magnitude of the problem makes no sense. So I hope that helps you understand that targeting has happened at the ad level, at the creative level, for 7 years now. There is legitimately no reason you should be going outside of that. And the argument that people make is, well, my performance is better when I use an interest group or lookalikes or X, Y, and Z. Yes, because it's a segmented version of the broad audience. And if you got rid of it, the broad audience would improve. And it doesn't matter about how one ad or one ad set functions. It's how well does this campaign work at overall providing incrementality to your business. I don't care if your performance, if your ROAS is better because of a targeting option, if ultimately that doesn't show up on the bank account. The easiest way to get the best ROAS ever is to only show your ads to people that open an email about a buy two, get one free. Your ROAS is going to be like 1 billion and you're going to get no extra money. Age, gender, location. That's it. I'd argue you probably don't need most of them because the ads do the targeting. Exclusions make no fucking sense. And if you say, well, I'm excluding existing customers because I want to find new ones, that's not going to help you find new customers. In fact, one of the easiest ways of reducing your cost for new customers is just get rid of exclusions because it lowers all your CPMs. Instead, optimize for new customer. Make new customer the optimization event. And I've got a video on the channel, I'll link it in the description down below, around incremental attribution and like how to get new customers and tools that I use because I think there's better options than what Facebook has available right now. And I lay out the timeline for that tool that Facebook is building, incremental attribution, when it's going to be a better choice. But all in good time. Let's keep going. Matt, by the way, I love your delivery here. I think you're killing it. Let's see what you got next. I don't agree with you on everything, but I love the way you're laying it out, and thank you for that.
The words you say in the ad and the body copy that you have in the ad are going to put this ad in front of the right people. Facebook wants us to keep using the Advantage Plus defaults. Okay, Advantage Plus campaigns are the cleanest fit. If you guys have been in the ads manager, you've seen there's the opportunity score. It is really pushing for Advantage Plus. Okay, Advantage Plus campaign budget, Advantage Plus targeting, Advantage Plus creative, all the stuff. Okay, we need to learn how to use this. Okay, there are still some settings that I have turned off, but I am working more and more on how do I give this algorithm more leeway. And the only way that that's going to actually work for me and for you and everyone else here is if we're optimizing for the right event. And I talk about pixel conditioning a lot, but we have to have a really healthy pixel that's only sending back qualified leads if we're going to follow this plan. If we're just going to optimize for leads or clicks or DMs, we're going to get a bunch of junk leads, okay? Because
so one note here, I actually agree, lean into as much as you can. All things you are in Advantage Plus is now not options, it's a state of being. I personally also try to lean into as much as possible, and I have for the last 10 years or so. Before it was Advantage Plus was just auto bid, and then it was maximize, right? There's all sorts of these other things. CBO is now Advantage Plus budgets, right? Auto placement is now Advantage Plus placements. All of that stuff. The only stuff where I'm restricting the machine, just to call it out because I agree with you, Matt, and where I'm being restrictive is I get rid of the creative optimizations. And it's primarily because that's not necessarily a tool for people driving leads and trying to make sales. Most at scale. The creative optimizations and most of the Advantage Plus tools, and this is not my words, these are coming from the engineering team, and because I regularly chat with them and I've had interviews with people on the engineering team and product developers on my channel all the time, it's to make things easier for people that are starting out. It's getting everybody to be a C plus marketer. But if you're an A plus marketer and you start using some of these tools, you're going to reduce your ability to do your job. It's like if a Formula One driver starts driving automatic because it's easier, they're going to lose a lot of races. There's just some cheat codes that are built in. They're not necessarily built for you. Remember, Facebook is trying to optimize their experience to make it easier for people to run ads on Facebook. It's not to make people who are really good get better, because the playbook hasn't really changed in 7 or 8 years. What you're supposed to do has basically been the same for the better part of a decade. They're making it easier for everybody that isn't quite there yet. Also, the Advantage Plus version of broad is different than normal broad, but if you go down to the audience section, your ad account layout will have a different few options, but you can do further limit the reach, and then it'll bring you up into the original audiences section, and then you just put age, gender, location. It'll actually be a broader version of broad. Or there's other options in there, but if you go down in there, you are not stuck to Advantage Plus Broad. And Advantage Plus Broad is basically broad targeting with engaged shoppers, interest group laid on top of it, or behavior laid on top of it. That's a whole other hack from like 2020, but don't worry about it.
It's going to send us volume. So we have to learn how do we filter out and create more friction in our ads and through our process to allow the Advantage Plus to work for us. Because if we're optimizing for leads or messages, we need to get quality leads coming in, not just total volume of leads. If we don't specify that, that's what we'll get, okay? And number 4 is simplify your structure, okay? There are very few reasons to overcomplicate campaign structure, and you need a different campaign for each goal, but you may not even need that anymore. You will rarely need multiple ad sets for targeting, and you'll rarely need multiple ad sets. I think they just did a duplicate here. The heavy lifting happens at the ad level, okay? So this is what I'm going to talk about at the end, because I think I spent so much time this past week trying to figure out what's the best campaign structure, and I'm going to share it with you from what I found. You know what the crazy part of this? I had a call with my meta rep. She had no training on this. She's like, I've been learning myself. I've been trying to get other people.
By the way, best campaign structure is this. One campaign, an ad set with your winning ads, and then 1 or 2 ad sets with dynamic creatives or flex ads. This is a control and then a variable. This is the scientific method. This is what got us from riding horses to the moon in a generation or 2. There's absolutely no reason that a data-based machine learning algorithm built by engineers shouldn't leverage the scientific method. That sticky note is half a decade old and has been the strategy that has helped me take a ton of businesses to 8-figure exits, 9-figure runways, and has taken me personally from somebody working a 6-figure job to owning 2 homes. One in LA, one in New York. And paying more in taxes than I got paid at my jobs. Anyway, let's keep going.
To learn about it, but they haven't made an announcement about this, nothing. So if you're just, talking to your meta rep, or you have like a business coach who's not in on this stuff, or a marketing coach and still teaching the same old ABO strategies, you're going to be left behind. All right, so keep going on here. Now, ad limits. So there was a time where Meta would only suggest 6 ads per ad set. There were times where we only said, 1 ad per ad set. Like back in the day, we would just force 1 ad in front of 1 audience to test it out. Nope. We then went from there to 3, and then it went to 6. Now that recommendation has disappeared. I know people who have 50 ads in an ad set, and it's working. Okay. Now this is where it gets complicated, and that's what I'm gonna show you at the end. It's gonna be super cool. But yeah, so if you guys want to read the rest of this, let's go ahead and read it. But I'm gonna share with you guys now on my screen, which I'm very excited about.
It's working is subjective. And I will say this, I also know folks running 50 ads in an ad set, and it's working. What we have found is that folks that have not previously leaned into creative diversity are doing so in a better way. So they're getting wins by hitting more of that Olympic rings setup that we talked about. And if you go from going east when you're trying to go west, and all you do is change direction, that's great. That's a win. If you stop digging, you're going to stop making things worse. And not making things worse is a great way to get better. But I will also say, most people that are doing this coming out of the summer into the fall. And there's a very large macroeconomic issue here. The amount of false positives of people saying, well, I'm running 50 ads and it's so much better. Most of them were running ads in a very bad way. So now, even though they're still doing the wrong thing, they're doing it in a structure that allows them to be dramatically improved. But they're also doing it where they're comparing when people are buying more to when people were buying less. The summer is the worst period of the year for all commerce. It has been for well over 100 years. The fall is when people start to spend more money. When you compare the results of July and August, the worst times of the year, to September and October, where things get dramatically better, that test, inherently, if you did nothing, everything would get better. The fact that you went from doing the wrong thing in the wrong way to doing the wrong thing but in the right way, while everything gets better, will justify will give you the validation that you're making the right moves. And it's not that you're not improving. It's that you are, but there's still so much room to go. And the reason you're winning has far more to do with the landscape and the macroeconomic conditions of just consumer behavior. But I do appreciate that folks are starting to throw way more ads and single ad sets and single campaigns instead of having wildly complicated ad accounts with a bunch of campaigns that don't talk to each other that are all competing. So, wins where they are, but let's understand the backdrop of those wins to put them into context. Anyway, let's keep going, Matt.
The campaign structure of how we're going to be testing this. Again, this is all new to us too, right? This happened in July. We didn't know about it really until September. Not know about it.
By the way, I'm going to drop the same links into my link as well as the link to his video. So if you want any of this stuff, it's going to all be right down below. So don't you worry. I'm not gatekeeping anything. This is all about just championing Matt, who clearly hit on something, and then giving some critique. Because I asked you all if you wanted to see it, and overwhelmingly, you said yes.
We let things ride for the month of August. It's September. I made changes to it last week. So again, there's a lot of changes that are happening. And as we learn more, we'll share more. Okay. So let's jump in. Okay. So previously, I'm going to say the old way right here. Okay. So this is the old way of running ads. We had a campaign. Okay. And then we had.
One quick note. Huge applaud to Matt for being this transparent. I love it. This is what the world needs. More transparency and more context. So just phenomenal work, Matt. Thank you very much for that. Now let's get into the campaign structure. Side note, my campaign structure basically hasn't changed in over 5 years. I'm interested to see what you have.
Multiple ad sets inside. Okay, I'm gonna go ad set 1, ad set 2, ad set 3. And oftentimes the old way is we just had one ad inside. Ad 1, right? Ad 1. Add 1. So we would do this because we were trying to figure out what's the best audience to serve these ads in front of. So this was like kind of step 1. Once we found the best ad set, then the step 2 would be a very similar structure. So I'll just put C for campaign. Then what we would do is we would do potentially even like, ad set 1. And that was, let's just say this was the winner. Ad set 1, same thing. Ad set 1, these parentheses just mean ad set 1, ad set 1. And then we would even launch just like individual ads. So it was like ad 1, ad 2, ad 3. And, we were just trying to force a specific ad in front of a specific audience. Now, just to be clear, this old way was like 2019 through like 2022-ish way. And then in 2023, things started to change a little bit. They started to come out with some of this more Advantage Plus stuff, and we made some changes. And then here is kind of the more traditional way that I see a lot of people run ads now. So old.
Side note, I absolutely used to run this stuff, although for me, this was 2024 to 2027, but absolutely did the same thing. ABO, all the way.
Ish way. All right. The old ish way was we'd have a campaign. Okay. And then inside of here, we had ad set 1, ad set 2, ad set 3. Okay, so these are just like multiple different ad sets inside. And what we would do, we found worked really well, was we had the campaign budget set at the campaign level. So if I put like, $1,000 a day in here and I said, hey, I'm optimizing this for calls, what I used to do in this oldish way, was each of these ad sets here, right, were like proven audiences. And I typically would launch like a new concept, okay? A new concept in each of these, okay? So each of these new concepts could be like, hey, I'm gonna do a B-roll ad, all right? So it's a B-roll ad, and that's just, let's just say that's ad set 1, right? This is to a proven audience, and this would be B-roll 1, and then there would be B-roll 2, and then there'd be B-roll 3, right? And let's say ad set 2 was a drawing video, right? So I'm using my iPad, drawing 1, drawing 2, and then drawing 3, right? And then, same thing for this. This could be like talking head, right? So I'm just gonna say talking head 1, talking head 2, talking head 3. So this was how I used to run ads all the way up until this point. This was, I'm gonna say oldish way. This is, let's just say up until before Andromeda. So let's just go 2023 to now, as in before, okay? My handwriting is beautiful. All right, so this is what we're running. And this was super simple because all I had to do was just every time I had a...
Side note, this is a lot of what we're talking about right here. Only he's using individual post IDs instead of using dynamic ads. And this is still not leveraging the scientific method. This is a whole bunch of individual points. So this old-ish way has 9 individual ads that are running within a campaign. So the way that this works is the campaign is choosing which ad set to spend on. The ad set is choosing which ad to spend on. Each ad set has 3 ads in it. And so it's making a choice of which ad to show. But each ad being its own landing page with its own click-through rate and bounce rate and stickiness and all of that stuff, because every ad is a landing page on the platform of Facebook and Instagram. They're all individual data points. So we have 9 different buckets that data can go into. Each ads, if you think of those as sales pitches, each ad set is a salesperson. Then the campaign is choosing which salesperson to show, to give the budget to. The problem with this is that none of these are well-rounded, so there's no control. They're all variable testing. There's nothing to say, these are the amalgamations of all the things where we know how they're going to behave, and the combination of which is something that is good for us that we can project. And really, the talking head might work, the drawing might work, the B-roll might work, but now you're still getting into a better place of allowing the campaign to make the choice. But there's nothing to say the campaign has absolute certainty around what a combination of events might be, and then the ability to test new ideas against it. This is still a reactionary way of running things. It's better than the old way, than the old way. But the primary issue here is that ultimately what we have built is a structure that doesn't have a known, and everything is reactive on the next. So to put it in context, your B-roll videos might be great in the beginning of the week, and then a talking head video works, and then something else happens outside of it, so your drawings start to pick up. And then the distribution of of your investment between these different ads and the ad sets is all based around things that you can't control, which is fine. The problem is, because we don't have any collection of assets that cover that creative diversity in one place, we can't have the campaign say, well, we're going to be able to distribute amongst the B-roll, the drawing, and the talking head in one single ad set where we're going to be able to manage that balance for you, and then test things against it to see if we can make that balance better. So instead of having a control with 3 variables, it's just 3 variables that are reactionary to outside forces. So it's a better system, but it still doesn't tap into the scientific method. So it's close, but if it was me setting this thing up, I would have the best B-roll, drawing, and talking head videos all in one ad set. So the campaign says, this is my best salesperson. I know how they're going to perform. I'm going to hire another salesperson and let them see if they can contribute. That would say we have a control element, and then we launch a variable, and we can measure how that variable impacts the control. That is the scientific method. That will allow us to understand what happens to our bank account because we launch a new test. This doesn't allow you to make that same analysis. It's just saying, based on the balance today, what is our performance? But we can't say we know what performance is more or less going to look like. How does that impact change when we launch something new? And that's the big discrepancy here. But we're very close. That's super nerdy stuff, but that's the whole point of this video is Matt is being very forthcoming. And he also, for the record, reached out to me on Twitter and said, I'd love to see it. And even in the comments section of this video, I said, let's make things simple. Doing it the wrong way only got worse. And he said, thanks for your comment, man. Love your stuff. Been following for a while. So like, this is just respect from person to person here. All right. I'm not trying to beat him up. And I just want to kind of give context. All right, let's keep going.
New concept or a new idea, I would just launch a new ad set with that concept inside. And if Facebook liked it, it would spin on it. If it wouldn't, it wouldn't. Well, all that has changed now because as we just saw about here, the issue that Facebook was having was figuring out which of these ads to be served to what person. Now,
here's the problem with that. And I totally get where you're coming from, Matt. The problem is you aren't able to say, this is my problem. Let me test to solve it. I have a new idea. Does it make things better? Those are 2 very different things. One is a pointed understanding of a hypothesis, a testing framework, and then proving out whether you were right or wrong and measuring the impact. The other one, which you currently have here, is the old-ish way, and I'm excited to see the new one, and I'm glad you went TH for talking head, by the way. This one is, I have a new idea. Let me throw it into the randomizer and see if the output is good. That's just not as valuable and actionable a way of testing.
Now with Andromeda, this is all changing. So now the new way, okay, so this is the new way to run ads is this, okay? We have campaign, okay? And let's say this is for a, let's just say it's the VSL campaign. So this is like, you're running ads to a free training so people can learn about what it looks like to work with you, your process, and you sell them at the end, right? It's a VSL, okay? VSL. And then we do this, one ad set. And then we have 10 to 50 ads in that one ad set. And this ad set is broad, okay? Broad, and it really wants you to use Advantage Plus. Now, again, we're working on doing this. If you guys have been in there, they've actually added value rules to this recently. So what I've been doing, I've been using Advantage Plus audiences, but I've added a value rule, okay? I've added a value rule for this ad set. So it's broad target.
All right, before he gets off into the value rules and everything else, what I want to point back to is basically what Matt is building is this winner's ad set. That's what you're doing. That's what Matt is building. This entire thing is a very complex way of getting to this proven winners section. The problem is you don't know if the ads that get spent are good or bad, so you're just waiting for the account to spend through all of the ads, and then hopefully at the end, the ones that were good got budget, and the ones that suck you turn off, but it's going to take you a long time to get between 10 and 50 ads, and ultimately, maybe the ad that sucked is the one that's filling the funnel. When you turn it off, things get worse. There's just so many permutations that it's almost impossible for the machine to understand what's good and bad. And if we understand that the customer journey is how, and the personalization is how somebody moves through being shown all of the ads that you have, for instance, well, 12 ads is one number, right? That's about 497 million. 50 ads is a number with over 50 commas. There are not enough people in the world for the machine to get an impression of one across all those different variations. And by the time you even got to that point, if you could, it would be another week, another month. The outside forces on the account would dramatically change. And that's to get a data set of one, much less anything close to statistical significance. So I think we're on the right path. Basically, what you're building is the winner's ad set. What I would encourage is instead of having 10 to 50 ads, use the ones that you already know that they work. And then really, the rest of the campaign is to try to improve the fewest moving parts that you can, make them better. It's the weakest link principle. If you want to make a chain stronger, you don't add more links. You take the weakest link and you make it stronger, and then you just add more load. That's how you solve this problem. And again, I've got way more videos coming out on this stuff, but I don't want to get too derailed because Matt's about to go off on some other stuff, I think, and I value what he's going on here, but just context where it's due. Okay, let's keep going.
There's no interests. There is a minimum age set at the age of 25 age. And then what I've done here is I put a value rule on this. And the value rule is to decrease bid by 90% for, I'm just going to put it this way, for old people, okay? Because I found that people, I don't know, I run, learn how to run Facebook ads, but there was people 55, 65 plus who are engaging on my ads. And I was like, I want to give Facebook, this Advantage Plus audience, but I don't want any of these old people to opt into my stuff. So what I'm doing here is I just added a value rule, and you can decrease the bid by 90% for old people or whatever age range you want. You can do the same thing for gender. You can do the same thing for location, etc. But this is what I'm currently testing right now to combat that.
He's effectively, in a creative and fun way, which clearly he's enjoying, and I enjoyed doing it too a year ago when I was doing this stuff, when it was coming out in beta, you're setting up exclusions. If your content appeals to those people, and it's a problem, the content is the issue. If the way that you exclude bad folks is to further add cost and complexity, I'd argue that you have an ad problem. If we know the ads do the targeting, and the targeting is bad, fix the ad.
I could probably still just go in and turn off, limit further reach of ads on the ad set.
Age, gender, location, Matt. Love it.
That level. And then when I do that, I could just set age range and turn off the suggestion, but I'm giving this a shot now. Just wanted to share that. But this is the new way. And we're just going to launch ads on a consistent basis inside of here. Now, the problem with this is the learning phase. Okay. It's something that we used to be worried about, right? Because every time I add a new ad into my ad set, it re-enters the learning phase. And if the learning phase decreases performance or it makes it reset the whole thing and you have a winning campaign, that could be a problem. Because what I would do with this concept here is I would just do new concepts. I would do this like 2 to 3 times per week. Yeah, more like most of the time 2, right? So
the learning phase doesn't decrease performance. The learning phase is the way the machine telling you it has enough data to have statistical significance and confidence in delivering a consistent user experience. When you add new ads in, when you massively ramp up the permutations, it no longer has that statistical significance. You're not trying to avoid the learning phase by hacking it. The learning phase is a signal that you've made too many choices. Again, that's why this structure works really well, because the learning phase goes into here. It doesn't go into your winners. Your variables have to overcome the uncertainty in order to be contributing to the bottom line, but your control doesn't. The problem with this style of testing is that ultimately every time you want to try a new idea, you risk the stability of the entire business. That's a pretty high risk move for very low reward.
New set of ads I worked on that morning, or I was in Canva, made some ads, go in the ad set, launch them. Go in the ad set, launch them. But the problem with that, this worked fine because the learning phase happens at the ad set level, okay? But if we're launching ads inside of a new ad.
Why are we launching ads this often? And this brings us down to, why do we launch new ads? If your results are good enough to increase your budget, don't launch new ads. If you have ads that earn spend and your performance isn't good enough, turn off the ad that is contributing to that detriment. Removing complexity is a better solution than making the system dumber. More ads equals dumber. More places that you have to invest with less data behind them is a dumber machine. I don't care about the potential of Andromeda and of the machine learning. If you have a ton of potential, but you haven't been trained, you're under-leveraged. The idea of creating more complexity to further under-leverage a machine as a way of solving a problem, to me, makes no sense. It's so much easier to remove bad choices and to then understand where your weakness is, to insert a stronger option to improve your weakest link. Because at the end of the day, I don't want 1,000 different types of people. I already have my ideal customer, those personas. If I have 1 or 2 of those, if I have 3 of those, that's easy enough for me to get to 6 figures a week. If you have 5 personas, you're going to probably struggle. If you have 10 personas, you can probably struggle to get to 6 figures a month. Specialists make more money. This is a generalist approach at seeing what gets lucky.
An existing ad set, it's going to reset the phase. Where over here, if I just launched an ad in I launched a new ad set, sure, the learning phase would start, but it wouldn't affect the older campaigns. Now that's not the case. So when I launch the ad set, it resets the learning phase. So what I'm going to do, at least this is the plan, is instead of dropping the new creatives 2 to 3 times per week, I'm going to drop creative 1 to 2 times per month, right? 1 to 2 times per month, drop 10 to 50 ads inside ad set, okay? And then once I drop them and I publish them, all right? So if I drop them and publish them, let's just say I've got 50 ads at the start of the month that are live, 50 start. And then every day I check that campaign and what we're looking for.
Okay, I love where you're going, Matt. We're getting there together, buddy. I love it.
Or are ads that are just not spending, okay? So
inside of a new ad set, and specifically only make those 10 to 50 focused on the problem that you have. I've got prospecting ads, I got retargeting ads. I can understand that by a 4PI analysis. Only launch new ideas to solve the problem that I have. Don't just launch a bunch of new ideas because you had fun in Canva.
Ads that are not spending means Facebook doesn't like them. So, let's just say if I started with 50, this looks like so. I started with 50 to start. At the end of week 1, maybe I've got 40 left, right? And then the next week goes by, then I'm down to 30 left. And then maybe I'm down to 20 left of like the ones that are spending and are performing decently, right? So then when I'm working on my drops, I'm gonna look at these 20 and say, what's the common theme?
I wouldn't turn off ads that don't spend. I would turn off ads where the CPA is above average and the GPT is below, where it costs more money to get something of lesser value. The things that don't spend might be valuable. The things that earn budget early are the ones that, based on existing data, the machine had higher confidence in the ability to deliver a consistent result. The problem with this style is that you're going to be stuck basically serving ads to the same folks over and over again, so you're going to struggle to find new customers because you're prefacing the machine to only focus after the data you already have. So this is a far less incremental approach because you're effectively punishing any incrementality by turning off the ads that don't get spent.
Is there anything that I think I could do better, right? And then are there new angles that I could also hit with this? So I'm gonna just put like first would be, creative refresh. And this is again, finding winners and make more, okay? Make more.
Side note here, if your performance is good, don't turn off an ad. If you've solved the problem of can I spend more money, the worst thing you could do is change the investment portfolio. If you have a machine that works, don't fix the machine because you don't have a problem. You need to create a problem of adding load or more spend to see where it breaks. But if it's not broken, don't fix it.
More, and when I say make more, just like we talked about earlier, like it wants creative diversification in formats. So if I have a winning video, can I turn that into a carousel? Can I take that same winning creative video and make it into a static? So I'm gonna do that, and I might even just take the same script and film it in a different area. So the first thing I'm gonna do is if there's 20 left, probably about like, let's just say, I'll probably make creative refresh. I'll redo about 10 to 20 that are creative refresh, already proven angles, right? And then the other.
That would be a great example, by the way, Matt, of when we talk about the Olympic rings, the 3 rings on top, and then the 2 below. If you have a video here, a static of this video would serve as the second touch, the retargeting ad of this thing, and might also fit this ad. So you're going on the right approach. We're really close, man. I love where you're going with this. We're getting there. We're getting there. I like it. Let's keep going.
Part would be maybe 10. I'm supposed to say 10 new angles.
Same script, different area. That is not diversity. That is iterative without diversity. You might launch 100 of those. The reason one ad is good or bad might just be random distribution around which one gets a sale early and which one gets good comments. Try it 100 times, your winner's going to be different every single time.
Right? 10 new angles, 10 different types of ads that could hit on different pain points. And test those out. All right. So again, that month would drop, and then I would have 50 ads to start.
Why? Very clearly, what you've said is we've gone from 50 down to 20. These are all the ones that work. Of the ones that work, why are we trying them again? What's likely to happen is you're going to manufacture ad fatigue. You launch 10 to 20 new versions. Those ads that are more or less the same as the ones that we're running are going to more or less appeal to the same people that the ones that we're running were. But because they're new, the machine is going to show those to warmer audiences that are more likely to convert, because the machine is going to test new ads against people that it thinks are going to perform well, because it wants to see, well, we know how these people are going to behave. How do they like the new thing? Well, if the new thing looks a lot like the old thing, then the people are probably going to behave good. Great, that new ad's going to win. And what happens as a result? Well, you're not providing incremental results. The new ad wins because the old ad doesn't. The same sale, instead of going here, goes to here. So you're manufacturing ad fatigue instead of moving the business forward. You're not solving problems, you're creating duplicity that manufactures a problem. You're not creating you're not solving problems, you're creating them in a way that doesn't really move the business forward. And I would argue that that's detrimental to progress.
Start, and I would just keep doing that. So go 50 down throughout the month to 20 to 30, and then again.
So the question here is why? Why are we not doing 322 ads? When you have 10 new angles or 10 new ads, what you're doing is saying, I'm going to put 10 individual pieces where the information goes into different folders. Those are 10 things that are competitive, 10 cannibalistic investments. instead of one 322 ad, or in this case, maybe three 322 ads, 3 creative, 2 primary text, 2 headlines, 322, where all the iterations are complementary. It's an ad that is learning around each permutation. And if the point is not to just find winning ads, but to improve the business, I'd rather have fewer ads that are smarter, that are able to be complementary and compound in value and data, than 10 that are all cannibalistic. This is how we compound machine learning versus setting ourselves up to chase wins. And I would love for you to not be dependent on the winning ad nearly as much as build a machine that can leverage really good data. And that's the big difference between launching individual posts and using dynamic ads. And you've already said they don't want the individual copy and creative, right? You're not trying to permutate these things out. So set up the machine to make the permutations for you. So instead of 10 new angles, do 3. Or more importantly, instead of 10 new ads, do 3 322 ads, or maybe 9 angles. The semantics on the numbers don't really matter, but the point here is, instead of setting up 10 different buckets of data, 10 different endpoints that are not communicating, do 3, where each one of them is 4 times or 12 times as intelligent. That's how you really begin to lean into the Andromeda instead of this setup, which is still shoehorning. For lack of a better word, this is how you force search and email best practices into a social media platform. And we just don't exist in that space anymore. It's the right solution, but for a completely different place.
Replenish what I've cropped off. Okay. So hope that makes sense. That's what I'm going to be doing. And have you guys heard what I was talking about there of like, I'm going to cut ads when they don't get any spend. So because of the way this is set up with 1 Advantage Plus and 10 to 50 ads in here, notice there is no top of funnel. So no top of funnel / middle of funnel / bottom of funnel split. Okay. That doesn't exist. So with this new strategy, what we're seeing is that inside of the ad set, the ads work together, right? So you might have a top of funnel ad, right? Then you also might have a middle of funnel ad. And then you also might have a bottom of funnel ad. Again, this is creative diversity, right? So like if we look at this setup, we put all the ads that we have in here because with this new algorithm update, what we're noticing is these ads here, they work together. Okay, they work together. Where previously, when I had this ad set 1, ad set 2.
Now, I don't know if Matt goes into this, but you can absolutely understand this with the 4PI analysis, which is spend, frequency, CPM, and efficiency. Top of funnel ads generally earn more budget, have a lower daily frequency and a lower CPM, and are less efficient. Bottom of funnel or lower funnel ads generally earn less spend, have a higher daily frequency. Remember, frequency only matters when breaking down by day. Frequency over a week or over a month doesn't mean anything. They generally have a higher daily frequency. So for instance, if you have a frequency of 1.05, that means 5% of people saw that ad twice today. 95% of that spend was prospecting. If you have a frequency of 1.5, that means 50% of people saw that ad twice today. 50% of that spend was retargeting. Well, 95% prospecting versus 50% retargeting, those sit in different places of the funnel. The one with the 1.5 frequencies, probably going to have a higher CPM, because it's a lower quality user experience to a higher quality audience. And as a result, it's going to have a better efficiency. The mix is having top, upper, and lower funnel ads. And then the entire purpose of creative testing is to see which one of these ads isn't doing its job well and can I improve that weakest link. Launching 1,000 ads just disrupts that entire architecture of which ads get shown in which way. So launching 50 new ads basically says, I got how to do the job, so now what I'm going to do is completely destroy all of that by throwing in a bunch of new ideas. That is manufacturing instability by forcing spend on unproven assets. It's forcing you to more heavily invest in uncertainty, which is the opposite of having consistency and scalability in your ad platform.
Ad set 3, and they were all launched together. They were all independent. Sure, I'm sure Facebook shared some of that data back and forth, but not that much, right? So now when we have this setup here and we're launching all these new ads, you might say like, holy cow, that's a lot. We can actually have ads inside of here that are more top of funnel, right? Top of funnel would be things like your personal story, right? Your personal story. Hey, here's how I got into this, right? I used to be 20 pounds overweight. I tried this thing, blah, 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 right? That. We could even have a value, a value add with a soft CTA, right? And then middle of the funnel is going to be more direct with, click this link, get this thing. More direct with CTA for lead magnet. And then bottom of funnel would be more testimonials. Okay, there's a lot of other ways we could do this, but let's say they're all driving still to the same funnel. I'm not going to get into, there might be an opportunity or an argument here where we could have different funnels inside these campaigns as long as they're optimized for the same thing. I'm not testing that yet, but that might be a play here. Okay, again, pretty crazy. But I would still drive, like, and all this would be to like a VSL funnel, right? So like top of funnel personal story, longer, talk about your experience, then drive to VSL. Value add, hey, here's 3 ways to do this thing. If you want to see more, click this link. Middle of funnel, hey, if you're struggling to get X, Y, and Z, you want this, go click this video and watch this thing. More around the pain and problem. Bottom of funnel, here's how I help so-and-so do X, Y, and Z. Go watch my...
Generally speaking, by the way, top of funnel is the broader hook. Lower funnel is a more narrow one. Generally speaking, videos are more appealing to a broader sense of people. You might really enjoy a video but have no intent or sentiment around the product. You'll watch it anyway. But if you get served a static ad about buy this thing right now, it only appeals to the people that are already aware. Context is what matters when it comes to understanding where in the funnel an ad is being served.
VSL, right? So they're all, as of right now, my recommendation is that we're all driving to the same lead magnet. Again, after a little bit of time, that may change, okay? So this is the campaign structure that we're going to be testing. One campaign, one ad set, very broad, and just keep launching new creatives in here. And again, we're going to do that at a frequency of 1 to 2 times per month to prevent the ads set from going into the learning phase too many times, okay? You can have as many ads as you want in this. Again, the biggest thing here is creative diversity, okay? We're not doing
it won't change
this super controlled way anymore. It just doesn't work. This way can still work, okay? This can still work. I'll be honest and transparent. This one could absolutely work. It does help you organize things better, but there's probably going to be a performance decrease because these ad sets here.
And again, if you just launch a separate ad set specifically to test the ideas that solve the problems of your winning ads to overcome the weakest link, your control ad set will never go into the learning phase. So you'll never face a problem of risking the entire future of your business to try a new idea. In my opinion, a lot of creative testing has way more to do with the feelings of the marketer than the results of the bank account. This would be an example of where we could make an improvement.
Okay, you can have as many ads as you want in this.
More ads equals dumber. More luck, longer time. You can have as many ads as you want. Just know that the more ads you have, the harder it is going to be for you to have an understanding of what any of them is doing to your bank account. And the more difficult you are making it for the machine to have any certainty of what to do with the ads for you. And the more disruptive to what already works. So, more ads equals dumber machine. More ads equals less money. Solve the problems you have. Don't create new problems. That's generally how you move forward.
Again, the biggest thing here is creative diversity. Okay, we're not doing...
Creative diversity is not thousands of ads. It's hitting a few points that are not completely the same. Remember the Olympic rings.
Are not working together like they are in our new way. All right, so that's what I got in this update, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys
I really appreciate how Matt laid out his inferences of what is changing in his strategy, and I love his transparency. Now, if you want to see my transparency on how I take the information that I have to build $100,000 a day ad accounts, how to get you from a couple hundred a day to a couple of thousand, or from a couple of thousand a day to well over 5 or 6 figures, here's a video right here for you. I built it for you. This is the entire blueprint. This is the playbook to help you get to where you want to go. And I really hope you enjoy it. It is jam-packed, detailed, with a ton of screen shares and just step-by-step instructions. So, until next time, I'll see you on the internet. Bye!